and welcome to episode 266 of the Small and Supercharged podcast with Ria Freeman. Welcome to this episode of the Small and Supercharged podcast. It's a solo, I know it's kind of out of order, but it's all going to be good. It's a solo with me, and today I'm going to talk to you about the importance of having multi-streams of income in your business. This isn't completely by coincidence. It's because there have been various people, perhaps in the news, who have had different streams of income shut down for matters that they haven't been entirely in control of, in terms of that something got shut down. I've been talking on the radio about this a lot, and I thought, you know what, it's actually a really good opportunity to have a chat with you all about how we can look at how to make sure our businesses are more robust than simply lying on one stream of income. Now, although we've got an example of why it's important to do that, that's very much in the news at the moment, I think that if we just go back in time to the pandemic days, the COVID days, a lot of people's businesses were transformed hugely, quite literally overnight. People that couldn't open the physical doors of their shop or establishment had to change to a completely different model, or perhaps double down on models they already had. And obviously that was a much, much easier step because they had the systems in place to cope with that. So for an example, some shops had to close, particularly ones that were deemed, non-essential. But if they already had an online model or a click and collect model, it was more a case of saying to their customers, we can't do this, but we do this thing and we know how it works. You can do that instead. And of course, from a staff point of view and a staffing point of view, it wasn't having to learn a completely new system. It was how to really double down on those elements. And there were loads and loads of examples of that. Some people created completely new ways to work. Other people capitalized on certain opportunities. And I thought, you know what, hopefully we won't see a lockdown like that in our lifetimes again. But I do think it's an important lesson, not because of, I can see the future and a lockdown's coming. I can't see the future. If so, I'd be on the lottery numbers. But I think it was a really good lesson in how fragile or how precarious it can be for a business to have one source of income. If something changes that's beyond that person's control, they are in a vulnerable position from a business perspective. So I wanted to just have a chat today, just to hopefully get those creative juices flowing, to make you think, maybe there is something I can do, because it is a whole lot easier to think about these outlets or these potential outlets now, do the research, do the learning, try, test it, than it is to be under a huge amount of pressure to come up with an idea to replace an income source that you need to. Again, I'm saying through no fault of your own. If, for example, you do a very, very physical job and you have an accident that means you're out of work for a little bit, if you have a health issue, if you are not able to do what you usually do because you have other commitments like a family commitment or a really pressing issue you have to deal with, what would that look like? How would that work for your business? This isn't to scare you, it's actually to make you feel a whole lot more secure and allow you to create different sources of income. The other thing as well is just if you're doing particularly a service-based business where you are the product, so your earning income, your potential is limited by how many hours are in a day and how many of those hours you want to work, then that might be kind of tricky, particularly if you get busier and busier. You get to the point when you are absolutely at full capacity. You can't take on any more. There's more opportunity out there. And that's when we see things like burnout, overwhelm, and things that are not positive from a business perspective. Now, if you can look to develop some more of these income streams, some of which we could term passive, and that I'm not comfortable with that phrase because I have got a few passive income streams in inverted commas, but they're not passive. If I don't market them, they don't sell. So, and I do have to continually update and create them. Some take a lot of effort, some take less effort. So passive, I'm not happy with that wording for this. What I am happier with is a one-to-many model, and whether that is through setting up some automation that allows you to sell a product, a service, a masterclass, a course that doesn't take your work all the time, then all the better. That's particularly for service-based businesses. Now, if you are a product-based business, there is ways that you can broaden your income streams as well. There absolutely is. I think quite a few of these are, there's a really good mix here that you could also look to adopt into what you do. I think one thing perhaps would be, from a product point of view, also managing your risk with having that one supplier, So, one is if you only have one product that you sell from one supplier, thinking about managing your risks and putting all your eggs in one basket, then if that supplier has a supply issue, and again, going back to those joyous COVID times, there were a lot of businesses having huge supply issues, which meant that then they couldn't provide their customers with that product. But if you have spread that risk across a number of different suppliers, it's not a fail-safe. There's no way you can guarantee that all of your suppliers aren't going to have an issue, particularly in a situation like a global pandemic, but you are spreading that risk. You're not putting all that information in that one basket. So it's really, really important to just think about that as well. So I'm going to run through some ways that you can perhaps think of broadening the income streams you have into your business. These will not all suit everybody, but I'm not looking to provide you with 40 more, well, it's not 40, probably 20 more jobs to do at all. And there are more beyond the ones I'm going to share with you today. What I'm really hoping this podcast is going to do is just allow you to think outside that, what you work with now, allow you to expand your thoughts beyond that and start thinking, okay, what else could I do? Just a plug for the membership group that I run. Now, I started this because I wanted to help more people, but I couldn't do it one-to-one. So I came up with a membership group that allowed people to subscribe and pay a lot less than my one-to-one fees, but allowed me to be able to share opportunities with them that could really help their businesses, to teach them things through the marketing masterclasses, social media masterclasses, social media critiques, and also the mindset elements we have brought in every month with either myself, Jane Brindley, or Tracy Cole, and support people within the group. So one way that I did that is through Mastermind. Now, if you are a business looking for that kind of support, that's definitely the place I would recommend. It's £40 a calendar month. There's an amazing community in there. There are incredible opportunities that are posted. I've posted 2 in today that are incredible. And if they come off for the people involved, they'll be mega. There's also exclusive opportunities that are just for my group. So if you want more information on that, come and find me. I'm at Ria Freeman PR on Instagram, or nip over to my website, riafreemanpr.co.uk, and there is a Small and Supercharged Mastermind heading at the top. Also, although we do have our regular monthly masterclasses, trainings, etc., we also have a monthly live, which allows people to ask any questions they want, either use my mind and or the Hive Mind to help develop whatever you're looking for, whether that's your self-development or your business development, idea generation, you name it, we've got you. So do come and check that out. So now moving on to this multi-income stream approach. Service-based businesses, I think, are particularly hard because, as we said, that is that one-to-one model. But one really useful thing to do, particularly if you've got a successful service-based business and you have a skill to share or a skill that you can teach people, is to go down the courses route. Now, there are some brilliant platforms that help support courses. I've got a couple of courses on a platform called Thinkific. Don't think it's the cheapest platform, but I like it, so I use it. But there are loads and loads available. I'm not necessarily recommending Thinkific. I like it, but there's also ones like Teachable, Kajabi. There's plugins you can have onto other websites. There's loads you can do. But if you're looking to do courses, do some research, because some have got really good platforms available that handle everything for you. They take the payments, they allow the content to be fed out in the correct way, they allow trickle content, loads and loads of things, different content formats. I mean, with my courses, I've got video, audio, slides, loads of things going on. So if you want to look into that, do. There are also courses you can do about courses, but also a huge amount of free resource online about that too. There's a fabulous lady called Lucy Griffiths. She wrote the book called Make Money While You Sleep, which is actually a really good book about creating different forms of income as well. She's got a YouTube channel with lots of information on there, and she does do courses about this as well. But there's lots of free information out there to get you started and to help you research and find out more. Now, you might be thinking, what on earth are you going to do a course about? And don't let this overwhelm you. I think one really good place to start is think about the questions that you get asked the most. So what do people ask you, in your professional opinion, the most? I think sometimes we think courses have to be these huge things that are going to take people 6 years to complete. In all honesty, short and sweet is not a bad option. It also means you can make it a less expensive course versus something that's taken you years and years to produce. And it means that you're going to probably appeal to more people. That doesn't mean big, chunky, expensive courses that do an awful lot are bad. Not at all. But don't think you have to do X or Y because that's what other people do. In fact, you don't. Really, shortcuts are what courses are all about. It's how to deliver that information to somebody in an effective way. And if that's a short course, then that is brilliant. You could also ask your fans, followers and customers what they might like to learn more about from you. And you might be really surprised that it's stuff that you think is really basic and obvious. And I think when we are busy working in the profession that we do, we can think that some things are really obvious and easy when to other people they're not be. So courses are a really good one. And this is kind of connected to the next one, which is more of like a download. So rather than doing a full-on course, maybe you've got an ebook download or something like that that is a readable document, or maybe it's got a workbook or something like that. But they can be super easy to produce through something like Canva, and then you can monetize that if you want to. Now, I did mention ebooks just then, and obviously another option, which is one that I have, is a physical book. Now, don't be under any illusions. There is work involved in this, and significant work. I think my first book was 60,000-ish, 50,000, 60,000 words. My next book, which you might have seen online, has been taken by Bloomsbury, which I'm beyond excited about. But be assured there is a huge amount of work that goes into any book. Whilst obviously you can earn really good money from it, it can also be quite a slow trickle based on, the payments that you get per book sale, depending on whether you're doing it self-published, whether you are working with a publisher. But it can be another source of income. We touched on memberships. Obviously, I've got the Mastermind membership, which I absolutely adore and I love to bits, and I love the people in there. And there are loads of different memberships that do exist that I've seen in lots of different spaces across different industries. It could also, it can even be people sign up to a newsletter when they become a member. There's also platforms that do support memberships. Obviously, with mine, I run that through a Facebook group, but there are services like Patreon, I think that's how you say it, which do allow a membership model through their service. There's lots of things available, and actually through some of the courses software I talked about, you can have membership models in some of those as well. Now, moving through to another thing, obviously you're listening to a podcast, and I will say I do not monetize a podcast at this point. It's probably something I should be doing, but I don't. This is a thing I love doing. It's a really important form of, marketing for me, which allows me to chat to incredible people. I learn loads. I love connecting to you, the listeners, as well. So at the moment, I don't monetize it. But that doesn't mean that I couldn't. And that doesn't mean that if you have a successful podcast, you can't do that. It's really worth noting with this, and actually the next thing I'm going to talk about, is that this is a long game strategy. Most people don't start a podcast day one and day two, they're earning money from it. If you are looking to monetize it, there needs to be a good audience there that makes it worthwhile and makes sense to advertise on it for a brand point of view. So that's definitely a longer term plan. You can do ads, you can do sponsorships. There is scope there, but that's definitely a longer term plan, as is my next point, which are things like, earning money from social media, YouTube, creator funds, monetization options. They are options that can bring in significant money, but not to start with. You need to put a lot of time in and a lot of effort in initially to build up that strong following, to develop the number of views you get, depending on which platform you use and what monetization options you're looking at. This is not an overnight job either, but if you absolutely adore creating content, you've got a strong following, it could be another income stream for you, and perhaps one that's worth looking at. Another one is products. Now, this is particularly with a service-based business in mind, because if you are a product-based business, you're going to be selling products anyway. But it might be that as a service-based business, there are things that you can sell as products. Maybe it's things like planners, or maybe it is personalized clothing, or clothing that you've got branding on, or something like that. So it's you've got scope there. You've got things that you can do and products that you can potentially create for what you're doing. You could look to make use of existing assets. So if you are, for example, a photographer, you could make use of things like existing image libraries that you've already got, or maybe you've already written things that you could sell, or things like that for people as well. Now, we touched on books and obviously writing, and you could perhaps look to do articles for people and get paid for that. That is an option, and a strong option as well. You might also look to become an influencer and use your following to earn money, not just through things like the Creator Fund, but through working with brands and being paid to create content and promote what they're doing through your platforms, which does link into creating content. If you are a dab hand with the camera, or an amazing photographer that you do for your own stuff, then actually that could be a really good opportunity for you, and you could earn good money through there by coming up with creative ideas and helping to support people with their own content creation needs. I've touched on sponsored content here, which is very much connected to being an influencer and creating content. And then we've got the option of, if you've got a strong website or a good newsletter that has good, a strong number of subscribers and a good open rate, you could potentially sell ads on that as well, or sell sponsored content in the form of blogs and things like that. And my last idea for today, because this is a whistle-stop tour just to get your creative juices flowing, is you could become an affiliate for something that you really believe in, whether that's course or product or something else. And people can, again, make good money from this, but as per lots of these other things, it does rely on having a really strong following of people who do believe what you're saying and are interested in what you're saying, and believe what you're saying. That means they're going to buy from you or buy through that link. Now, with quite a few of those, you do need to make sure you are applying to the relevant terms and conditions and laws and legal things, but this is not what this is about. This is for you to hopefully get the seed of an idea that you can go off and you can explore and you can grow and develop what you're doing too. So I hope that has been useful. I'd love your thoughts on this. Have you ever thought about making another stream to your income channels? Have you thought about ways that you could adapt what you do, perhaps add a different model in that would mean you were more one-to-many model, or that it was less stuff for you to do on a day-to-day basis, but perhaps more work up front, such as a course or something like that? I would love your thoughts on this. Please do let me know. I'm over at riafreemanpr.co.uk, and I would also love it if you could spend a couple of seconds, maybe more than a couple of seconds, but reviewing and rating this podcast. It really does help people to find it, and I will be hugely, hugely grateful. Have a brilliant day. Take care, and we will catch up soon.